Hey, what's up, everybody? Garrett Grummel here with Duty to Train, and I'm going to do my news articles today. Needed to switch it up, and doesn't really matter why. But top 3 news articles this week, and the craziest one I'm going to leave till the end, so stay tuned. But let's just get right into it. So the first story is Conor McGregor being investigated by the Irish authorities for some tweets he sent in response to the stabbings by an immigrant in Ireland and the resulting riots and all that stuff. So I'm just going to read his tweets real quick and then just talk about this for a minute. Isn't that something? The absolute picture of weak and feeble. The most divisive of all is the weak man. One of the most horrific crimes this nation ever seen has occurred. We do not care anymore what you sad cases have got to say. In a war, you are nothing. We are not backing down. We are only warming up. There will be no backing down until real change is implemented for the safety of our nation. We are not losing any more of our women and children to sick and twisted people who should not even be in Ireland in the first place. Call it what you want, we do not care. May God help us all, Ireland, for victory. And then he said, Ireland, we are at war, and do not let any Irish property be took over unannounced. Evaporate said property, it's a war. So it says here, a number of Irish tabloid newspapers have claimed Conor McGregor is under investigation over social media posts. They claim the Gardaí, Ireland's police force, are investigating whether they constitute incitement and hate speech, both of which are criminal offenses in Ireland. It is just absolutely crazy that we've gotten to this point. And another one of these is going to, another one of the stories is going to tie into this. But this is just, Conor McGregor is under investigation for being upset and saying some things, which are maybe, a little like we're at war. Are you not allowed to say that? That you're not allowed to say that? Like, what world are we living in? And I know this isn't America. It's Ireland, and I'm not entirely sure of their laws. But the fact that they have, they now have hate speech laws. That's what he's. They're investigating whether his tweets constitute incitement and hate speech. But listen to this. What constitutes hate speech? So the hate speech law. It shall be an offense for a person to publish or distribute written material, to use words, behave, or display written material that are threatening, abusive, or insulting, and are intended or having regard to all the circumstances are likely to stir up hatred. Who's in charge of saying that? Who's in charge of determining what's hatred and what's not? I mean, a lot of people around the world are pro-Hamas right now. Is that considered hatred? I'd be willing to bet that Ireland would not be saying that that's hate speech. It's just crazy. It's totally wild. All right, so next story. Listen to this conversation real quick, and this is actually a little bit hopeful because we now have access to information that you just didn't have access to 30 years ago, right? When there was just one big giant corporate press and, everybody watched the same television late at night. People didn't really think about this, but the ability for the government to just push propaganda through these 3 TV channels or however many there were at the time, it was so easy. But now, I can go on to Dave Smith and I can listen to Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson say this.
If you were to say out loud in specific terms the degree of control that specific agency, and there are many other agencies, but that one specifically, CIA, had over our public conversation and over our politics, you'd sound like a complete freaking wacko. People wouldn't even believe you, and yet it would be absolutely true. So I guess what I'm saying is we understate the power, and I'm speaking this from knowledge after 35 years in Washington, knowing a lot of people who work there and knowing a lot about it. We understate the power of this intel agency with an unknown budget, unknown staff, unknown reach, unknown mission. It's completely out of control, much more than people understand. It's completely out of control. And it's also completely corrupt. I was telling my wife at dinner, actually, 2 nights ago, with a bunch of relatives in there, we were thinking of 4 separate real estate transactions that we were personally party to or on the same street or next door to or whatever, of CIA officers, current CIA officers who were paying millions of dollars for a very expensive real estate. And my wife said, what about that one? We sold our house once to a CIA officer for all this money. It's and the question was where do they get all this money? You're a federal employee. Where'd you get $4 million or $12 million? You know what I mean? Leaving aside the assassinations and the subversion of democracy, just the pure financial corruption of the CIA is a mind-blowing story that the average person knows nothing about.
That's awesome. That's so cool. The fact that we have access to so much information and we can actually start calling out all the BS that's happening in government and huge institutions. The small person finally has a voice. And right now, there is censorship in America with people trying to take this stuff away. And I'm just going to jump right into this last one, and then we can kind of tie it all together. But listen, this is epic. Listen to this. So this is Elon Musk at the New York Times Deal Book Summit being interviewed, and He sent out a tweet that people were saying was anti-Semitic a couple days ago. He since apologized. He apologizes for it in this interview. He's like, hey, listen, it was like a really bad tweet. Sometimes I mess up, I'm human. And frankly, people are going to mess up. Like, we have to be a little bit forgiving as long as he's not being constantly anti-Semitic, then, give the guy a little bit of leeway. But a lot of advertisers, big advertisers, like Disney was one of them, a lot of other ones, but left the platform for advertising, and they left it in mass. And so he's being asked about this, and this is his response. Because he's basically saying, listen, if you want to leave the company, then leave the company. But I'm not going to tamp down on, the ability for people to say what they want to say on my platform. And so this is him asking him, are you sure you really want to go that way? And this is Elon's response.
If you will, that this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself.
But
go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
So Elon goes on to say in the interview that he's not going to personally bankroll this company if all the advertisers leave. The company will just go bankrupt. And the guy's like, well, people are going to blame you for, kind of creating this environment where advertisers don't feel comfortable. And he's like, no, they won't. And he said, if X goes bankrupt, it's going to be a result of these advertisers leaving. And he said, let's ask the world when that happens. He said, we're going to document the entire thing on X if that does happen, and then ask the world how they feel about it. And so this just ties back to the first story of Conor McGregor not being able to say what he wants to say. The authorities cracking down on him because he's pushing back against something that they're doing. I mean, it's crazy. If you said any of this 20 years ago, that you wouldn't be able to say that mass immigration into all these places when you don't know who's coming in. This is a big problem in Ireland as well. The fact that you can't call that out in a heated way, he's not inciting violence. Saying it's a war. Lots of people say it's a war. Lots of people in America are it's a battle or it's a war or whatever. Left and the right are at war. He's not saying that they're actually at war. But now he's under investigation because the government and the authorities don't want him to be able to call them out because it makes them look bad. I mean, that's clearly what's happening. And thankfully, the second story with Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson, we are able to call them out way more than we used to be able to. So these big companies aren't immune to controversy. They are pulling off of Twitter, X, all at the same time, and it seems like it's organized. It seems like they want to kill the company. And so that's what Elon is saying. And I want to finish by showing this one clip, which I think is also super important. It's the same interview.
It currently sells twice as much in terms
He's talking about Tesla.
of electric vehicles as the rest of electric car makers in the United States combined. Tesla has done more to help the environment than all other companies combined. It would be fair to say that, therefore, as a leader of the company, I've done more for the environment than everyone else, and any single human on Earth.
how do you feel about that? No,
How do I feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you personally how you feel about that, because we're talking about power and influence and...
I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Fuck them. Okay?
I just wanted to finish with that because it's the perfect encapsulation of what's going on. These big companies they're not immune to controversy, and this idea that these companies actually care about like BLM, you think these companies care about BLM? Do you think they really care about trans rights? I mean, if the wind shifted, they would shift in a second. They'd shift in a second. They don't care. But it seems like they're all pulling off of Twitter for a specific reason. It seems like they want to kill the company. And I have no idea why. And a lot of people don't know why. And then you're a conspiracy theorist if you're it's a big conspiracy to take down X. Well, there's some really powerful people right now who don't want X to be a free speech platform. They want it to be censored. And Elon just told them to go F themselves. So it's not a conspiracy to think that some of the most powerful people in the world want to censor speech, and then you have all the biggest companies in the world pulling all of their ad revenue off of the company at the exact same time. And then Elon's like, says later on in the video, the advertisers all pulling off, it could kill the company, and he's not going to personally bankroll it. But if the company does go bankrupt as a result of all the advertisers leaving the company, the world is going to hold these different companies responsible. And we'll see how that plays out as well. But it's going to get super interesting because, there are huge, powerful forces on both sides. And the thing is a lot of people forget this, but governments are only in charge because we let them be in charge, And I'm not like calling for violence here, but like the French Revolution, it happened like that. If you push people can only be pushed so far. And then, it would be super easy to just walk into the White House and take it over. It's not that hard. People like kind of forget about that, but people are like, oh, Washington's in so much, like they don't really have that much power. Not if like all of America decides one day to just wake up and be like, no, that's it. We're done. Especially in America because we have so many guns. And that's a crazy thing to say, but it is true. Like we have tons of power in America as the populace, but it'll be interesting to see where this goes because you have two really strong competing forces and both of these ideas cannot win. You can't have censorship and free speech. Like one of those ideas has to win out, and it'll be scary if censorship wins out. But I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Right now, Elon Musk is kind of at the forefront of that fight, and we'll see what happens with X. It'll probably, in the next 2 or 3 years, I feel we'll find out which way the winds are shifting, and we'll watch it play out in real time. Super cool part in history. We're literally living history right now. And it's pretty wild. So until next time, stay safe, live free, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.